Hello, this is Rabbi James Byers, and we're going to be going through some information, if nothing else, on the name of our God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So, we're going to be doing a presentation, and it is the name revealed. So I want you to just relax and go with me through this taping so that we can understand the name. The name as it is, Yod He Vav He, from the Hebrew. We have come to learn that the name have been hidden for a particular time, but now is being revealed. We're going to look at four questions. What is the name of our Creator? What is it? Why is it necessary to use a name? What is the origin of the historic resources concerning biblical documentation? How does the Father's name relate to the Son and the name above all names? All right. And if you're watching the slideshow, we're on slide number 3 at the moment. So just, follow along. What is the name of our Creator? That's the first thing we're going to look at. Let us examine the origin of what we already know and have used for hundreds of years by defining God, Lord, and deity. Okay, so these three things we're going to try to define as history has revealed to us. First thing we're going to look at is the three witnesses, page 4. Romans chapter 9, verse 17. For the scripture says to Pharaoh, "For this same purpose I have raised you up, to show my power in you, and that my name be declared in all the earth." Let's hold it right there for a quick second. Notice that we are in the New Testament, first thing. And he's saying something that was already done back in Egypt. Pharaoh, I have raised you up. Why? To declare my name. Where? In all the earth. Let's go on to the next one, which is Exodus chapter 9, verse 13. And Yahweh said to Moses, "Rise early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh and say to him, Thus saith Yahweh, Elohim of the Hebrews, let my people go, so that they may serve me." All right, so we know that Moses is a figure from history that brought the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, Misraim from the Hebrew. Two things is happening here, or two things are happening. First, Yahweh has already been identified. Now he's also identifying his servant, Moses. He gives him some instructions. Rise early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh. I am the God of the Hebrews. So he connects himself with Moses and the Hebrews. And the command to Pharaoh is to let my people go. Why? So they may serve me. Keep that in mind. So they may serve me. Because maybe later on, the next Exodus, and there will be another, we will also understand why he's going to pull his people out of all the nations, so they may serve him properly. Exodus 9th chapter, 16th verse. And for this reason I have raised you up, in order to show you my power, and in order to declare my name in all the earth. So once again, here's a second witness to declaring his name to all the earth, not just Egypt. See, Egypt was the world superpower at that time. And he raised his people in that land along with Pharaoh himself. And he's declaring, I have raised you up, who? Pharaoh. To do what? Show my power. To who? All the earth. Number 5. Let's look at some etymology. Etymology basically going back to the origin of words. And I thought this was very important for us to do this so that we can get a clearer understanding as to things that we use today, how they relate to the origin of what we must understand when we use certain words. Okay, for the time period, which is 430 years, the Israelites were in Egypt. The title God denoted a polytheistic society. Polytheistic society. Now, what are we looking at here? First of all, we got to understand that God, Yahweh, he used this as a foundation and platform to declare his name to a people who are polytheistic in nature. Many gods. And in doing so, he raised up his own people, his kingdom, the 12 tribes, in the middle of a society or culture that is littered with many gods. Second point. Animals were sacrificed in Egypt throughout its history. Although they reached a culmination of popularity in the late and Greco-Roman periods, animal cults focused on one specific animal in whom the Spirit of God would reside by being worshipped as such for the duration of the animal's lifetime. Upon its death, it was mummified, and another would be chosen with special markings that would take its place. All right, so what we have here is gods, little g, multiple gods. And can we really say that God resides in an animal? I mean, I do understand that he resides in a living temple. But what we have here is the animal itself, is the embodiment of God. And I see no proof of that in the scriptures, anywhere in our Bibles that is something that he does. Let's go on to number 6. Why is it necessary to use a name? Next question we're going to answer. All right. Egyptian examples of titles of God. Pharaoh means king with a progression to God upon death. Now, the thing that we have to realize about this particular Pharaoh that was during the time of the Exodus from Egypt, this particular Pharaoh, he no longer abided by the old rule, you die and then become God. He had already progressed to become and proclaim himself as God. So, now what we have is the second bullet, which is later becoming king while living. Looking at some other things that are gods, we have felines, reptiles, bulls, cows, birds. Elements, rivers, luminaries, mountain stars, fire, plagues, and wars. The Egyptians also worshiped beetles. They would use that as a signet for a ring, giving a signature of royalty or authority. Let's go on to 7. And just a quick note about page 6. Understanding that these multiple gods in different living organisms. One thing I did want to show, and what you may want to do if you have access to your computer, or if you're looking at this by computer, go to Egyptian gods, Greek gods, Roman gods, and what you will see is so many names that it's overwhelming, actually. And I thought to first just give a quick glimpse and picture of the many gods and the multiple gods that they have. But it was so many that what I finally resolved to doing was putting them into categories such as feline, reptile, birds. And if you go through, you'll see that each of these categories have multiple uses for their many gods. And as they stated, or as I stated, simply when one dies, they select another. Now, how is it that your God dies and you just easily select another? Is that really God? Let's start looking at some more etymology of God. So we're going to look at the phonetics of God, and I have for you in the bullets some research that I've done looking at different resources. So that's what we're going to do at this moment, is start looking at some resources. Webster New College or Collegiate Dictionary says that the origin of the word God comes from a Germanic word Gad, as we would pronounce it here in the English language, or pronounced as God or God. The English word God is identical with the Anglo-Saxon word for good, second bullet, and therefore it is believed that the name of God refers to the divine goodness. And we have our reference at the bottom. So, we have the word God that comes from a German background that is really pronounced as God. G-A-D, pronounced as G-A-W-D, or G-O-H-D-T. But the sound, the phonetics, is what I'm looking at now. If a person was speaking, you're not looking at letters, you're listening to the sound of what is being said. So for the German, if you was to say God, I know God, they would say, yes, I do too. I know God. But the question has to be asked, what God are we talking about? Slide 8. Word origin of God. Our word God, or in the English language, goes back to the goes back to the Germanic, to the Indo-European, in which a corresponding ancestor of the form meant invoked one. The word's only surviving non-Germanic relative is Sanskrit, who invoke the gods, plural form. A form which appears in the Rig Veda. Most ancient of Hindu scriptures, Huru or Hutas, much invoked, or the rain god. And you have, once again, Reader's Digest. I implore you to check some of these out, and you'll get a better sense that the word God has a deeper sense than what we've known. So I want you to return, as we in this first part, we'll have a part 2, and if we're not finished, part 3. So